Books Cubed, the show where I chat with authors you should be reading, or in this case, listening to. This week, let's see, this show is going to go live. I forgot to say that part. This show is going to go live tomorrow, which is February 4th. And this time, I've got a special guest, Rebeca Seitz, and she has created these stories where you listen to this radio play and you have this box that you've gotten in the mail that has things in it for you to enjoy while you're listening. It is a cool, cool concept. Terry is joining me this week, and I apologize, Terry. I was a little chatty and didn't let her get a word in edgewise. Sorry, Terry. But let's get right to it. You will be fascinated by this. We're talking about her Valentine's show, which is going to go up Valentine's Day. And you still have time to order one of these boxes if you do it by February 6th, 2021. Don't do it too late in the day, though. Make sure you do it early. So do it like right now if you're listening before then. So listen to the show, and you will absolutely be fascinated by what this woman has created. So let's get right to it. I will see you after. We want to welcome everybody for a special Valentine's show. I know we're a little bit early for Valentine's Day, but we wanted to get this out to you so that you could partake in this special radio drama that we're going to be talking about. So I want to recommend, yes, but also introduce my sometimes co-host, Terry.
Hello.
And I'm choking on my own saliva here. And then we've got Rebeca Seitz joining us, and she's the creator, producer, director of radio dramas of yesteryear. So welcome, Rebeca.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Can't wait to hear.
So tell everybody what the radio dramas of yesteryear are.
Sure. So I've been in entertainment for about 17 years, and I started in book publishing as a publicist, actually, for novels. And then I went into writing, and I wrote novels, and then I went from there into film and television. And when the pandemic hit, obviously we couldn't be on set anymore. And so one of the ways we could continue to tell stories was to do podcasts. And I didn't really know at the time, thank goodness, that there was no genre for fiction really in podcasting. About the only storytelling that happens there is true crime, or or there's lots of sci-fi and fantasy. So I just thought, well, I'm going to tell stories that way, and I'll write scripts just like I do for television, and we'll use sound effects and music, and we'll tell a story that way. And so we did our first one. We started the company at the end of 2019 on Friday the 13th, December 13th in 2019. And then, yeah, probably not the most auspicious day to start a company, but then we had our first one out by May. It released, I think it was May 14th was the first episode. And that one was, we adapted the memoirs of a surgeon who was born in Egypt and then raised in Germany and went to school in London and then moved to America. And he had this really illustrious career as a surgeon. And he just written his memoirs. And I found the whole story fascinating of what he had survived and the prejudice he had overcome in England as an Egyptian man. It was astounding to me. So that became 30 episodes. They released from May to September. And pretty quickly after we started releasing them, they were in the top 20% of podcasts worldwide.
Wow.
Nice.
So I was like, people like stories. What do you know?
They do. Did you do any advertising for them, or was it just word of mouth?
Most of it was word of mouth. I did a little bit, like maybe 50 or $100 worth of Facebook advertising to say, hey, there's this story out there, give it a listen. And really most of the advertising was because about a month or two before the show was set to release. So we've been working on it in secret, for 6 months. I mean, it had like 99 voices. I had actors from a dozen countries that I was directing via Skype. It became quite the giant production over time. But about 2 months beforehand is when the pandemic first hit, or hit here in Florida pretty hard, and everything just shut down. And I thought, well, okay, the two places people listen to podcasts anymore just went away, going to work or at the gym. So I thought, okay, how do they listen to it now? What are they going to be doing? And I had this image of this woman who was a little like me, where she was like exhausted at the end of the day because she's trying to do her job, so she's staring at a screen all day, and her kids are in virtual school. I have two; they're staring at screens all day, and you're trying to run the house, and it's just craziness. And she was at the end of the day, and she was just completely exhausted, and all she wanted to do was turn off the screens and just relax for a second. She wasn't ready to go to bed; she just wanted to relax for a minute. And I thought, I saw her with her phone in her hand, and she tapped our show and set the phone down and poured a glass of wine and sat down and just enjoyed the show. And I thought, I've got to get the wine to her. I need to bring the wine to her. So I went and found a vineyard in Napa Valley, Boisé Collection. They've got vineyards there and in the south of France. And they had this huge, because they have several different vineyards associated with them, they had a big wine list to choose from. So I went down the wine list, studying their wines, and I put one bottle of wine with every episode that had something in common with it. So like in one episode, a suicide happens, and the wine that goes with that are these grapes that are crushed in a particularly menacing way to get the juice out. And so it was talking about, you're crushed in medical school, and these grapes were crushed this way, and they only grow on this really rocky, difficult part of the vineyard. And so we matched all the wine up, and then we called that Podpair, that we were pairing with stories. And we put that out there to everybody. And so it's the long answer to your question of, did we advertise? We mostly advertised that you could get the wine delivered to your house to listen to the story.
And I know so many people would be like, where do I sign up?
Right? Again, it's one of those things of, I'm glad I was ignorant at the time, because had I known how much alcohol and the movement of it in this country is regulated, I would not have started with such a difficult product to put with a story. It was just the layers of regulation, and how, some of the wines that I chose can ship into some states and not other states. So then I had to choose substitutions, and
Wow.
it became quite the ordeal. Yeah.
But there's more in the boxes besides wine, right?
For making the cut, it's just wine. But then what happened was, in fall, after Making the Cut had finished releasing, one of our listeners reached out to me on Facebook, and she said, "Hey, do you have one of these that's just like 1 or 2 episodes instead of 30? Because I want to buy the Podpair box and gift it to people so they can listen to a story and have this box of stuff." And I said, I don't, but I can. So just give me a minute. So I was on my way up to Disney, which is about 3.5 hours from my house at the time. So I was in the car, and I had time to think. And I thought, okay, so what would be a 1 episode? That means you've got about 45 minutes to tell a story. You're not going to get too far into the characters. What can you do? And, it was fall, so we were starting to hear about Hallmark Christmas movies. And I thought, I'll do a Christmas movie, just a one-off, a Christmas podcast, just a one-off Christmas story. And so I messaged her back, and I said, I'm going to do a Christmas one, and I'm going to do a Christmas box with it, and I'll let you know more when I know more. And so by the time I got home from Disney, I had the story, knew what I wanted to tell, and I thought, I need to find talent that's not too expensive, because this is completely unbudgeted. And my niece was down, she was taking care of my pets while I was at Disney. So when I got home, I said, "Hey, I've always told you you'd be a great actress." She was like, "Yes." And I said, "Do you have any friends that also like to be very dramatic?" And so right there in my kitchen, she called her friends to let me hear their voices, and I cast the show right there, like within 30 minutes. And then we got together. It's just a few weeks later, I went up to Tennessee, where they all live. That's where I'm from, and originally from. And we recorded the show, and that became the first Chocolate and Joy. And we paired a red box with it that had a gingerbread man Christmas cookie in it, and Christmas munchies and hot chocolate mix, all of which the characters actually ate and drank in the show. So you could eat and drink with them while you listened to the show. And that one was a huge hit with people. I mean, it sold more wine, like 800% more than the wine. So
now, has the winery noticed? Do they know what you're doing?
Oh, yeah. I had to partner up with them, because going back to that regulation, I can't ship wine myself because I'm not a distributor. So I went through their collection. They actually can't sell direct to the public either, because it has to touch 3 hands before it gets to the consumer. So they have a distributor that then stocks their wine, and that distributor ships to my customers, ships to Podpair customers. It's very regulated, and it's some states are even like you're allowed to have so many gallons or so many liters delivered to your home per month or per quarter or whatever. It's very, very regulated.
Yeah, it really is screwy because my husband and I, we were somewhere and we found this great Chardonnay from Chile and we
Mm,
wanted to buy a case. We had to buy it from Canada. We
yeah,
couldn't buy it
yeah,
from the winery in Chile.
yeah. You have to, there's something about, there has to be the maker, and then there has to be the bottler, and then there has to be the distributor. So Boisé is a bottler that has all of their relationships with the vineyards. So that's two, and then they have the distributor that they ship the wine to, and then they ship the wine out to the customers. It's, I mean, in some states, like you can only receive domestically made wine. You can't receive bubbly. So several of them were French champagne. You couldn't ship to those states that don't allow bubbly. It was a lesson. It was a lot of learning of trying to figure out how to get wine to people just so they could relax with the story. I mean, that's all I wanted to do.
Now, is there wine in every box?
So those you can order one bottle at a time. The way I worked it out is one bottle per episode because I thought you might be listening with somebody, or the episodes were coming out, I think once a week. So it was like you had a bottle of wine for that week. And so if you didn't consume it all while you listened to the show, it's fine. You had a bottle of wine to enjoy until the next episode, and then you got the next one. And you could order them in boxes of 1, 3, or 6. And so you could plan ahead, and you didn't have to order all of them. You know, maybe you just say, I just want episodes 7 through 10 or whatever, you know, and then if you liked it, like we did have one customer who the wine is very good. So it's not available at like ABC and Total Wine and stuff like that. You can't buy it at wine stores. And so one of the customers, she just keeps repeating what she ordered during the show because she can't get it anywhere else. So that was nice.
Nice. Yeah, definitely. How often do the shows come out?
So, great question. So, when I started 1C, I had always in my career been a pusher. Like, I pushed things into existence all the time, like make things happen. And when I started 1C, I was like, I'm too old to do that anymore. I don't have the energy. So, I was like, I'm going to have a completely different mindset here. I'm going to just let it happen. I'm going to work like I've always worked, and I'll put everything out there that I'm doing, and then just sort of see what comes together as it comes together. So the first year of 1C was like that. So we released, there were 3 shows totaling 38 episodes that year, all of which were in the top 10 to 25% of podcasts in the world, which
Wow.
was nice. So it worked.
Yeah.
So then as the year progressed and different projects came up, I would just be like, I would sign a contract with we have 2 ways of making shows. Either I dream them up and write them, or other writers sometimes come to me and say, could you convert my novel or my biography or my novella into a podcast? So as things came up, as ideas came to my head or other writers approached me and I thought I have time for that, I started adding on. And so then in November, I said, I should probably put together a production calendar because it feels like there's a lot here. And I did that and promptly had a heart attack because I realized that the production calendar, we have 8 shows totaling 70 episodes scheduled for this year, more than half of which come out before July. So that's what's going on right now. And one of those is what led me to you is Chocolate Enjoy Christmas was a hit. So I thought, well, let's do Chocolate Enjoy Valentine's Day. Just because Hallmark only does Christmas movies doesn't mean we have to. So I wrote a Valentine's Day sequel, and I got the cast all together at a castle in Georgia. I didn't even know there were castles in Georgia, but we found one. And we recorded at a castle in Georgia in early January, and that became Chocolate Enjoy 2 Valentine's Day, which also has a Valentine's gift box in it. So that's the next
Now,
one to come out.
it's probably too late to order a box for this episode because this will air on tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday, right?
Yeah, you have until the 6th, until February 6th to place your order.
Okay,
So if
and
this
so
comes
this
out on the 4th,
probably is going to go out. I don't know what today is. Oh,
the
this
3rd.
actually might go out. So if anybody's listening, tomorrow's the 4th. So you actually do have a couple days if you listen to the show early. And sometimes people do, and sometimes they don't. So we will, in the show notes, we'll have links for you to get to the website and do all the ordering and everything like that that you need to do. So how do they find these shows now? If they go to, like, if I click on my podcast link, my little podcast app,
Mhm.
what do I type in to find your shows?
So every show, I wish that Spotify and Apple in particular would allow us to have a network channel, because several of us now are creating libraries of content. But right now, they still force you to make people learn the show name every time. So, like on television, I could say, I want to watch NBC shows and go to NBC. That doesn't exist yet in podcast world, and I'm just cannot wait until they do, because then you could just go to the 1C network and look at all of our shows because they're all story driven. But for now, the Valentine's Day and Christmas show, that's called Chocolate and Joy. So you just search for Chocolate and Joy in your podcast app. The wine one is called Making the Cut, the mostly true life story of a retired surgeon. So you just put in the name of the show and find it. If you can't remember the names of our shows, our website has them all listed, and our website is just1c.com, justonec.com. And the reason for that is my Rebecca only has one C. So my company is 1C Productions. I figured even if I failed, people would be able to spell my name one day. So
Even when you spell it for them, they won't spell it right.
they don't,
Yeah. Yeah, I have a strange last name and no one's ever spelled it right. So
2Cs too. I thought, and I know she exists. We're going to talk to her.
It's just the one. I tell people we couldn't afford two when I was born, so I just got the one. That's it.
well, her show came up easy. I typed in Chocolate and Joy, and it's the first thing that came up. And it's got a great cover.
Oh,
Looks like maybe strawberries and a hot chocolate mug with a candy cane and a partially eaten gingerbread.
Oh no,
man.
that's still the Christmas art. So you must be on Apple Podcasts.
Yes, because I have an iPhone. Yep.
What we've noticed is, the plan is to change the artwork with each new episode to keep the logo of it is that heart that you see. And so the idea was, well, we'll keep the heart, but change it for whatever the season is, so people will easily be able to tell which episode is for which event. And what we found is that Spotify updates that artwork, as soon as you put it on the platform. Apple, we put that new artwork up at least 2 weeks ago, maybe 3, and Apple is still feeding out the Christmas artwork for Chocolate and Joy. So again, it's one of those things where we're all figuring out podcasting because it's so new and how to work with the platforms, or at least I am. So I haven't figured out how to force them to update that artwork, because the new artwork is a heart that has the suckers on it. I should tell you, in the box, I got a little bit smarter on this one. Instead of having to assemble all the contents myself, like I did at Christmas, I sourced them. And so it has these two, I should have grabbed these. They're here in my office. It has these 2 lollipops that are organic and gluten-free and kosher, and they're made by this woman-owned company up in New England. And then it also has a sugar cookie, an iced sugar cookie. You can see all this at chocolateandjoy.com. It has an iced sugar cookie that says "Love You" on it, which pertains to kind of the lesson the guy learns in the story. And then it has one of the things I love in it. It's a rose quartz candle. So the candle smells delicious. It's amazing. But when you burn it all the way to the bottom, there's a piece of rose quartz in the bottom. And rose quartz is a symbol for unconditional love. And all of that plays into the story that you listen to. So you get all that in the box.
Well, it seems like there's a lot of parts going into these productions. For example, you do you find your actors, which you told, family maybe, or friends or whatever. And then do you outsource your editing, or do you do the editing on that?
So I do, I write, produce, and direct. Oh, and I don't write every show that we make, because as soon as I figure out the cloning process, maybe. But for now, I write the ones that are sort of in my wheelhouse. Like, for instance, we have a show coming out later this year. I think it hits in June or July. and it starts in June or July, and it's called The Password Murders, and it's 7 episodes of a murder mystery, and the Podpair boxes have clue kits in them, so you can put together the clues and figure out who done it. Well, I am not a murder mystery writer. I don't naturally do that, especially something as intricate as figuring out the clues and not giving it away by clue 3. But I knew a writer based in Orlando who is excellent at that. His name's John Leatherman. And so I called John and I said, can you write this in 6 or 7 episodes? And the story is awesome. He finished the scripts this month and now they're in editing now. But it's just, in that instance, I could try to write it, but it's never going to be anything as good as what somebody like John could produce or John could write. So I'll produce and direct it, but he wrote it. So where it makes sense, we hire out. I do not do any of the editing, not even a little bit, but I do sit in the room with the editor after the first rough cut and say, no, there's supposed to be 2 or 3 seconds pause there. Let the listener take in what was just said, or no, we're supposed to have a longer musical intro there, or a stem scene change or something like that. So I'll direct the editor, but I don't edit. And I don't create most of our artwork. I hire graphic artists for that. And the talent, Chocolate and Joy is really the only one that I've used friends and family. Mostly we hire actors for that. Like earlier today, before I did this show, I spent 2 hours by Zoom directing one voice artist in Serbia and another one, where was she? She was in London. And then I was supposed to have another one, and then I realized, oops, this was overbooked. And so I'm doing her tomorrow, and she's up in Canada. And they are all starring in Grandma Rambo, which comes out April 1st, and it's a British farce. And it's about 12 episodes. It has a puzzle that comes in the box. You put together a puzzle while you listen.
This is the most exciting creative thing I've heard ever. I mean, Melissa and I write cozy mysteries. And and I'm thinking, wow, it's just so creative what you're doing.
We could do that, or you guys could do those too. I mean, it's not, what we're doing, I don't think is rocket science. It's just a lot, like you said, it's a lot of moving parts. It's, I hired somebody to act as a casting director on Grandma Rambo because I learned on Making the Cut that I can't be responsible for creating sides and then waiting through thousands of auditions that come in and then working out the voice talent agreement with the actor and then scheduling them to actually do the recording. And then you have to go back to them because there are pickups.
She froze.
Yeah. Oh.
She froze. I'll cut and go back to it when she comes back. Okay, there she is. Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. We knew you'd come back eventually. So where were you were talking? I lost track of it now.
I think I was just mentioning that yes, there are a lot of moving parts. And now as we've grown, I've started hiring other people to help with the moving parts because it's just too much for one human being to handle. And then, the promotion of all of this is a whole other beast in and of itself. So yeah, there are a lot of folks helping now.
And I was just thinking of all the bookkeeping and everything. You're hiring people and, oh gosh. Yeah.
It's a lot. Well, and you'll see coming, so I write for a business magazine as well. And that I'm now working with that business magazine. I write profiles of CEOs for them. And there was this venture capital fund that I ran across, and we had been getting some interest in the company from venture capitalists and angels and all that. And I just math's not my thing. I was like, I'm not smart enough to have these conversations. So I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. But this firm had this 3-month program. And I said, well, what if I go through your program and then I'll write about it for the magazine? And so that's another time element that's come into play lately is now I spend this time talking to this VC fund or VC firm, trying to figure out, well, okay, how do you go from I've done what I can do financially, we've got a ton of shows coming out, but if you want us to make even more, then someone else is going to have to feed into this thing. So we're kind of going through that process now, and hopefully we'll be able to get even more people involved here. Because do you guys know about Gimlet Media and Wondery and those kind of podcast networks?
No.
I didn't either, girl. There was Gimlet started, I think it was in 2004 or 5, and then it was later than that because they were only about 4 or 5 years old when they sold in 18 or 19 for $200 million to Spotify.
Wow.
And they had 24 podcast shows. That's what they were. It was a podcast show library. And then last year, there's one called Wondery, and Wondery has like true crime podcasts. And I think they have some news ones too. And they didn't disclose it, but they were valued at about 300 million. And so they sold to Amazon. So there's a definite, thing happening in the podcast world, right? Of networks like ours and Wondery and Gimlet forming and building a library of content, and then going into partnership with the distributors to have a much larger audience. But for now, I'm just really focused on telling good stories. I mean, it's what we do at 1C. They're just stories that leave you better. And with cozies, I mean, you guys could adapt cozies. The main difference between writing for book, so I write novels as well. I started, in the novels world. The main difference between novels and podcast has to be dialogue heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're writing stories where instead of setting a scene, we're hearing people, or we're hearing things happen, like a body rolling down the stairs, and then somebody says, "Oh my gosh, there's a body at the bottom of the stairs." You have to write it that way instead of describing what the body looks like. And I like it because it leaves a lot more to the imagination. You have to tell them what the body looked like. They can just imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's definitely a different kind of writing. I come from screenwriting, and there's just no money in it, or you get screwed.
Yeah,
I did at one point.
The latter.
Yeah. So to protect myself, I moved to books, and now no one can screw me again.
Yep.
So, but yeah, it took me a couple of years to figure out how to write prose versus writing a screenplay. I mean, I think I was talking about this last week. I love where you can just say, "A fight ensues." And you don't have to worry about it, because the stunt coordinator is going to come in and they're going to set up the fight. And, you just go on with the dialogue and everything else, and you just move on in the story. But when you got a book and a fight ensues, you got to write the damn fight.
You have to write the fight. Oh, you'll love this story. So, I was a novelist and a biographer. Still am. I mean, I write, that's actually one of my novellas right back there in this scene. So I had never written a screenplay, and my first series of novels, enough readers that weren't my family had asked if it could become a TV series. And I had started moving into television, so I kind of was like, this actually could become a television series. I have no idea how to do that. So I called a friend of mine who is a really well-known, good screenwriter, and I said, could I hire you to adapt it, so that I would have something to shop around? And he said, well, why don't you just write it? And I said, oh, I don't know how to write a screenplay, and I don't even know what program you use to do that. He said, well, here's the thing. Why don't you try, and I'll read it, and if it's really bad, I'll tell you, and then you can hire me. But, maybe you can do this. And I said, okay. So I ordered the scripts from Gilmore Girls and Sex and the City. And I sat in front of the television watching the show with the script in my lap to see, what do they write to get it to look like that on screen. And that's how I learned screenwriting. And then I wrote the first screenplay, and I sent it to him, and he said, you absolutely can do this. And here's what it was. I had the same experience you had in reverse of, oh my gosh, this is so much easier. It's just dialogue. I mean, you just tell them what the scene is, and then you can get into it. You don't have to spend pages and pages of, this is what I was thinking while this was happening. You don't have to do that. It's amazing.
Yeah. I can knock a script out. And I know I had a friend who's an actor who sent me an email and said, look, I need a monologue for a audition. And I wrote a 60-page script. It's like,
yeah. I love it because it's not that the scene is not fully fleshed out in your head. Of course it is, or you couldn't be writing the scene. It's just that you don't have to take the time to transfer that onto the page. You can just enter the scene. It's forest night, and you can enter it.
Yeah, exactly. And I like the way that you taught yourself. I used to be a literary agent, and occasionally I would get screenplays from people that the story was there, but it was just not written well. And so I had a favorite script, and I would just take one page and return it and say, sit down and watch this show. This is the scene. Watch what's happening. And then you can see how you're supposed to write it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to say things like in the description, how could he not see that she was in love with him? You can say that because the actor can work with that,
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a great way to, and for filmmakers too, if you want to make films, take a scene, and every time the camera cuts, you stop it, you write down what you saw, was it a close up? Was it far away? How many people were in? Where was the camera located in relation to the actors?
Yeah.
I used to teach an outlining class, and that was one of the things I would throw in to these screenwriters who were making their own films was take a scene from a favorite movie and do it yourself. Take a
Mm.
short scene. You can take it and just set it in your kitchen instead of a castle or whatever, but have the actors put them in the same shot that they are in on the screen, same close-ups or far away, whatever, have them do the scene and then cut it together. And this way you know exactly what is involved, how many camera angles you have to come up with, and what is there. Yeah, I mean, it's a great way and obviously it worked for you to
Yeah,
go through
well,
and do that.
the big it really served me when I then set off to write podcasts, because as far as I've been able to find, we have Final Draft over in screenwriting world. As far as I've been able to find, even the radio dramas that template that you can pull up in Final Draft, it's not really set for exactly what we're doing. So I kind of had to learn the shortcuts and then be like, well, normally this is a shortcut for a scene set. But instead, because I need to be able to run a report at the end that lists all of the sound effects for the sound guy to start creating the library for the show, instead of scene headings, I use the scene heading format in Final Draft as a sound effect. So you have to kind of learn to work with what you've got. And then the other thing is, unlike if I'm writing for a screen, I am very loath to include direction in my stuff for screen, because I'm not a director in the screen world. And so I want to make sure I leave room for the director to do what he or she is going to do. In podcast world, though, voice actors need you to tell them exactly how you want to deliver. So nearly every line of dialogue is like sheepishly chuckling, angry, upset. You're having to tell them, because if you don't, what I found was when I got online with them, then to direct them virtually, they're recording in their studio, but they have me virtually to direct them. I was having to clarify line by line by line every time. So now the scripts have a lot of that there, so they can prepare ahead of time and really understand what's going on in the script.
Yeah. Do we have time to talk about the Flamingo family?
Flamingo family, yeah.
Is that your family?
That is my family. So what happened was, I knew nothing about podcasting or anything like that. What had happened was, the first thing that came about was the show Free Evangelic that I do with my husband. And that was where he and I were experiencing a big shift in our faith walk, in trying to figure it out. And I had gone public with mine, and everybody was asking what he thought about it. And he was like, I'm not going to write the way that you write, but I'll do a podcast with you. I'll talk. So we just started talking into a really bad microphone and made Free Evangelic. And it hit because so many other people were experiencing what we were experiencing. We're from a very, very evangelical background, almost a militantly evangelical background, and we were coming out of that. And others were too. So it found its home, and that's what really, I had never recorded myself talking before that. I had done media and stuff for stories, but I had not podcasted before. And then my kids were coming home from school telling me about things they were experiencing. We had just moved to a new area. They were in new schools. We didn't know anybody. And, my sixth grader came home, and I said, so how's school? And she said, well, everybody's trying to figure out if they're a boy or a girl. Mm-hmm. And I went, that's an actual thing for some people, but not like for 90% of the population. And it sounds like it's 90% of your class is trying to figure this out. Like, you feel like that's something you have to figure out. It's not, it's something you know. And the difficulty comes when what you feel like you know is not lining up with the physicality. And she was like, what? And I said, okay, look, as we continue to talk about it, she said, I wish that you could just sit down in my class and we could have this conversation with everybody, because now I get it. I get what gender dysphoria is. And I said, you know what, we should just do a podcast as a family, and we can talk about these things, because we can't be the only ones who are, encountering this stuff. And so that's really how Flamingo Family got started, is we dealt with that and vaping and social media, all the things. I have a teen and a tween, all the things they face. And then we just launched season 2 this year. And it's a little bit just more about our lifestyle. We're going on a big road trip this summer if COVID will please go away, and so we'll do a lot of shows from the road and stuff like that. So it's veering a little more into just our family now instead of issues they face. But yeah, that's how Flamingo Family got started.
I listened to your first one yesterday, and I'm a retired high school teacher, and
Oh
so
wow.
you just knocked it out. It was great, and the subjects that came up, that's the way it is now in school. And I mean it is so different, so different, even since I got out of school and then retired from teaching. But I just think it was really good, and I think maybe it was your family, because just the little things, it just like you guys were just talking.
Yeah. We talk a lot in this house. um, but I think with my kids, thankfully I have two really good kids. I got way lucky. I mean, I just have two kids that I not only love them, I like them as human beings. And so we get along really well. Even, I mean, we argue, hello, what's parent child, but so there are arguments, but there's always communication there and a lot of honesty. And so, when I don't ask them when I pick them up from school, how was your day? I'll ask them, what made you smile today? Or what upset you today? Or what interested you today? Or something like that. And they'll tell me. And I just thought, yeah, your school experience is very different than even the one I had. And I'm not that old. I mean, I was just in school 20 years ago. And it's just, I can't imagine the things that they wrestle with or that they feel like they need to wrestle with and figure out, in addition to everything you're supposed to be learning and being tested on all the time.
Right. Oh yeah.
So yeah, I thought if we can, part of the Flamingo Family too was in my son's class, especially there were some people in his class that we had become pretty familiar with their home life, and we knew they didn't have access to this kind of information or conversation. And I thought, well, I can have everybody over my house all the time. That's fine with me. But there are probably other kids that also don't have access to this kind of dialogue and communication. And if you don't see it modeled, then how are you supposed to, do it differently when it's your turn to have a family? So yeah, that's why we did Flamingo Family.
Right. I'm going to have to check them all out.
Oh, good. Thank you.
So Flamingo Family focuses on family issues.
It does. It's, we're a crazy family. My son and I both are ADHD, if you haven't picked that up for me. So we chase a lot of squirrels, a whole lot of squirrels on the show, but generally we try to stick to one theme for each show. So you can, pick what interests you and grab an episode. And now this year they're releasing twice a month, the second and fourth Friday of every month they release.
I said, what days do the
Free Evangelic? No, which one? Which one of the many shows?
what do you want to call the whole listening to the show and having the box, and what is that whole experience called?
Those are called Podpair.
Spell that.
Pod, like a podcast. Pod pair, Pair. You pair it up.
Podpair. Okay. Okay, I got it. I'm really slow. Podpair. That's a great way to put it. Podpair shows. Okay. So you're pairing the show with the box. So what days do those go live?
They're different depending on the show, but the way to see all of them is the website's easier to remember. I thought people might have a tough time knowing how to spell Podpair or remembering it. So instead of making that the main website, the website is relaxwithastory.com.
Relaxwithastory.com. I like that. Help me remember that, Carrie, because I don't want to have to write it down. My office is filled with whiteboards and I write everything down, but I don't want to have to write it. So
I'm trying to look clean. My whiteboard, my smallest whiteboard is that one, and it's clean at the moment, but I cleaned it because I knew I was going to do this today. So.
Well, your background's very nice. Yeah, mine. I used to have a great office. It was huge. It was full of everything, all this great stuff. I had a refrigerator, and then we moved, and I lost my office space, and now I share it with the spare bedroom. And right behind me is a green screen. It's right there. So it's like right up against me. So I feel like I'm enclosed
You're
in
like,
this teeny tiny little box. And it's so nice to take it down. But behind me, there's just no room. So I've got my two whiteboards, one in front, one to the side, and I've got like 8 other ones in a corner, and I'll pick them up if I need to add them. But yeah,
yep.
I told my husband, I kind of feel lost. I need all my whiteboards back so I can see them all at once.
And
Because
if you're, and
yeah,
if
because
you're,
when I'm breaking down a story, I like to put
yes,
everything so I can see, and I write every idea or different scene aspect in a different color.
I wish
So,
I could show you, but right now, so I haven't hung the latest whiteboard. It's over there.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's the production calendar for this year that's on it right now. But what's underneath there are all the story beats for Chocolate and Joy 3 Mother's Day. There's a Mother's Day one coming out as well this year. And
Oh, that's awesome.
I'll write all the story beats first and keep that beside my computer so that then when I pull a final draft, I can be like, okay, I'm writing this scene and now I'm writing this scene and now. Yeah.
Nice, nice, nice. And okay, we will have all of the links in the show notes, but tell people again,
Mhm.
um, the Flamingo podcast is twice a month, every other Friday,
Yes, second and fourth Friday of every month.
and that's family issues
Mhm.
told through your family.
Yes.
So, and then the other one, go ahead and run them through how they can
So
find it and when it comes
uh,
out.
Flamingo Family, you can just put in Flamingo Family. On any of these, you can just put the name of the show onto whatever podcast platform you use: Apple, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, whatever you're using, it's there. So that's Flamingo Family. Free Evangelic, which is the one about our faith walk. That's the last day of every month it comes out. Chocolate and Joy comes out on holidays. So the Christmas one is out. Valentine's Day is about to release. Mother's Day is coming, and then there'll be a beach birthday, and then the whole cycle starts all over again. And then what else did we cover? There's so many shows right now. If you go to, if you want to just see all the shows, again, just go to justonec.com, the justonec.com, and you can see all the shows listed there. And there are listen links on the website. So if you see one and you think that seems interesting and you click on it, there's a link that'll take you to Apple. There's a link that'll take you to Spotify. There's a link that'll take you everywhere. It's all right there.
And then people have, if you want to, like, say I want to watch the Mother's Day show. Mother's Day is May 8th?
May 9th.
May 9th. Okay. So if I want to watch the Mother's Day show with my box, how soon before the show do I need to order the box to make sure I have it in time?
Yeah, we ship them. We cut off orders 1 week before the event to make sure that we can get the box to you in time. So ideally, the box arrives to you the day before. That's our goal. Sometimes it might get there 2 days before, and you have to look at it for 2 days. So we're still working that out with UPS. But that to have the time to pick, pack, ship, label, get it to UPS, then we need a week. So we cut off orders a week beforehand. But I will say, with Chocolate and Joy, it sold out before the date was there. So it's better to order early because I only order, because this is such a new thing. Podpair is so new, it's now, we've patented it and it has trademarks. So because it's so new and we're figuring it out, I don't order a ton of inventory. I kind of guess we'll probably have this many listeners and this percentage of them will want the box. And so I'll order that much inventory. And I generally don't have time to order again before we have to cut off orders or before it all sells out.
Now for the Thanksgiving show, you still have time if they want to order.
For Valentine's Day, you mean?
For this Valentine's Day, yeah.
Yes, actually, I called the thing I needed more of if I was going to continue to take orders were the cookies, and I texted my cookie lady yesterday, so we're good. As of
okay, this is going to go live 3rd. On February 4th. So they have till what day? The 6th?
They have till the 6th. And you know what? If I was, hang on 1 second, and I'll just show you. Okay. It's right on the other side of my computer. Let's see. I can at least show you a little bit. I wish you could see the other side of my office. It's such a ginormous mess. But like, this is one of the things that's in the box. When we say lollipops, we don't mean the little, this is like one of the lollipops.
Oh, nice.
And it's like, I don't know if you can see the pretty heart edge work on it. That's like, and it's like, again, it's gluten-free and kosher and organic and handmade and all that from a lady, I think she's in Rhode Island.
Yeah, if you're listening on the podcast, it's a red lollipop and it has white hearts and little decorations on it. It's real pretty.
They're so pretty. And you get 2 of those. That flavor is like a watermelony fruity flavor. It kind of feels like you're at the beach. And the other one is a chocolate caramel that to me tastes like coffee. So it's a real dark brown. They're so good. I was like, I have to.
Because you are also promoting the other, your merchandise people.
It's a lot. It's a lot to talk about because, and I know it can feel overwhelming because everybody really is still wrapping their minds around what a podcast is in the first place. And now we're tacking on this additional thing of, right, but you can also eat and drink and work a puzzle while you listen to the show. Plus, there aren't stories in podcast world. There aren't a lot of them. And so it's a lot of new concept to wrap your mind around. But each one of those individually is a familiar concept, right? Like if you're going to watch a movie, you have popcorn, you eat with the stories, or if you're going to, know how to listen to a podcast, that's something everybody knows what it is, or half the country knows what it is. So it's just kind of taking those familiar concepts and then putting them together to create a whole story experience where you can just relax right into it.
Sounds so easy, but you're blowing my mind. It's so fantastic.
It really is. It's a great idea. And you're right. When we watch a movie, we want to eat popcorn. And doing the puzzle or figuring out the clues, being involved, not just listening, but being an active participant in the show. And then it brings you back each week too, because you said sometimes episodes last several weeks.
Yeah, so Making the Cut was 30 episodes. Grandma Rambo is 12. We have another one, the Password Murders are 7. So it's, we're still playing around with how long do people want to stay with the same characters and show. Chocolate and Joy by the end of the year will only be 5 episodes that are, centered around holidays. So we'll watch the listen numbers and the Podpair sales numbers and see, do people want to stick with the show long? We'll see. And then we also, next year we have television development coming. So you'll be able to, if you like Chocolate and Joy, then you'll be able to actually watch the TV show and order the Podpair box to watch the show while you have
That's fantastic.
That's my thought the other day. Actually, it wasn't my thought. I can't take credit for this. This was the attorney. He was like, Rebecca, we have the patent on this. If you're going to pair up food, drink, or hobby with a story that is told on a screen or auditorially, that's Podpair. You have to use Podpair. He said, so that extends to movies. So we started thinking out loud, and I said, what if, let's say you go see Guardians of the Galaxy, and instead of going, when theaters are open again, instead of going down there and just ordering generic popcorn, there's a whole box that is Guardians of the Galaxy stuff. And it's in the film that these guys are like drinking whatever, kind of like we had Reese's Pieces in, E.T., that kind of thing. What if you could get the box and then go into the theater and you're getting to watch your movie and eat and drink what's in the movie? That would be cool too. So yeah, lots that we're thinking about with Podpair.
Oh, I think you're right. There's so much there that you can work with. This is such a great idea. Anybody who's listening between February 4th and February 6th, you have time to order. But if you're going to order on the 6th, I would do it like at midnight on the 5th, because these are going to sell out, or the time is going to lapse and you would not be able to get it and you'll have to wait for the next one. So if they order a box and the show lasts 5 weeks, it's just one box.
So
for the 5 weeks.
Chocolate and Joy, that's 1 box per episode. So the next episode is Valentine's Day, so it's a Valentine's Day box. And then the episode after that comes out on Mother's Day. It's a Mother's Day gift box. It has
okay.
cool stuff in that box too. But anyway.
Yeah.
It's a something that goes with every episode. The only one that's not like that is Grandma Rambo, and the puzzle is a 1,000-piece puzzle, and it's 12 episodes. It's about 10 hours of content. So you have 10 hours overall to work this puzzle, which is about what it'll take you to do the puzzle.
Oh, I love puzzles. The joke is that, you get a puzzle for Christmas and you're angry. It's like that's my wish. I'm going to get a puzzle for Christmas.
Well, and this one, I found a painter I told her what the story was and I showed her some images, and she painted this beautiful, it's not a portrait, but it's like a portrait that includes the elements from the story in it. And so you're putting together this piece of art that you can't get anywhere else based off of this painting. It's the painting that we turn into the puzzle. And so you end up with a really pretty puzzle. If you're one of those people that likes to glue them and hang them, which I am, you've got a really pretty one and a cool one with a cool story to hang on the wall at the end too. Because I was like, Nobody needs more stuff just for stuff. We need stuff that matters.
Yeah. 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 Anything else you want to add in, Terry, before we wrap up?
No, I just want to say, if you need any gopher to do this or that, I'm available.
Awesome. Well, as we grow, you know what? You say that, but I will hold you to it.
Well, thank you, Rebecca, for coming on today and stealing Terry. And everybody, check it out because it is a really cool concept. And it's been very successful. You said you're in the top 10 and top 20.
Isn't that crazy? Who knew?
Wonderful. Yeah. Well, it makes sense.
Yes.
Because people like to hear a story. My favorite thing as a kid was listening on my transistor radio. Yes, I'm that old. They had, I lived in Boston, and they had a show that would come on late at night. I thought it was midnight, but it probably wasn't that late. But they would tell stories, like ghost stories. And I would listen. It was probably a local radio station. I would listen to these radio plays, and it was just one of my favorite things. Just absolutely loved it. So
I love it too. And I mean, I will say the joke here is that I get very overwhelmed with a lot of auditory content coming at me. And so the joke is that I make it for a living and it can overwhelm me if too much of it is going on. But I just love, I don't listen to a lot of talky podcasts for that reason. Like I can listen to maybe one and then it's like, okay, I've taken in a lot of content and I need to let that settle. So like I would listen to your show and then I would be like, okay, I can't listen to another one today because I need to let settle what I just heard. Versus I can listen to a story all day because my brain just processes it differently. It just likes to relax into a story.
You're there and you're just experiencing it.
It's very weird, or I guess my brain is very weird. I don't know. I love talkie podcasts because you can learn so much and they're fun and it's like having best friends with you. And I know people that listen to a dozen of them a day. I'm like, oh, I wish my brain could do that. But my brain will be like, what is wrong with you? No, we will explode now. You can't do that.
Yeah. It's a little sensory overload. I kind of get the same way where I'll listen for weeks, to lots of podcasts, and then I'll go a couple months without listening to any, just because you're right. It's like sensory overload, and I'll go back to books again for a while, and then I'll switch it up. And yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. And everybody, I'll have all the links in the show notes so you can check that out. And I'm excited for the Mother's Day show. The Valentine one is a little too close for me, but the Mother's Day one sounds really cool. So I think I'm going to get involved. Get a box for that one.
Hey, they come to Florida at Mother's Day where we are. So you'll love that one. Thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
Nice meeting you.
You too.
Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you, Terry. And thank you, Rebecca. And you may have noticed if you're watching on video that the opening for this week's show was a little dark. My lamp burned out right as we finished the interview. I don't think it burned out during the interview, but it might have. I can't remember now. I ordered a new bulb. Oh, well, they last like 200 hours, but I've had the bulb for 10 years and I've been using it. I was really surprised it lasted as long as it did last. Anyway, all the links you will find in the show notes. And if you are listening early and it is February 4th, 5th, or early on the 6th, order your box so you could participate in the Valentine's special. This sounds so exciting. I'm going to see if I can get a box if they're not gone yet. And I think you should do the same. If you'd like to comment on this week's show, go down to the show notes and look for that word comment. It will take you over to our YouTube channel and you can comment. This way they're all in the same place and I can read them and I don't miss anybody's comments. And that's it. You can like us on Instagram. You can contact me on Instagram or here or follow on that link below. That's it for now. I've got a great show for you next week. I am chatting historical fiction, vampires. Very, very cool. One of my favorite subjects. So make sure you come back for that. And I'll see you next time. So in the meantime, go read a good book.